Can't believe I'm learning from the master. I've been dreaming of this for over 10 years. Maybe one day I can make an arrangement with Mikey. And then I saw Mikey making a flower crown for Beyonce. And I was like, well, that ship has sailed. I'm never going to be able to collaborate with Mikey Putnam. Oh, and here I am.
I've been wanting to work with you for a very long time as well, so this is perfect.
Hi, I'm Rajiv, and today we are making a professional flower arrangement. It's not very often that I come across someone whose work leaves me in complete awe. And even rarer than that is to be able to be standing right beside them for a lesson. Mikey, I am so excited and honored to be in your studio today to learn how you make flower arrangements, because the thing about your arrangements that caught my eye over 10 years ago was they look like paintings. Up until that point, the only time that a flower arrangement really caught my eye was when I was in a museum and when I was looking at a Dutch painting from the 1600s.
I love that you say that. It's always been one of my biggest inspirations, these old, 17th, 16th century paintings. I think it really comes down to color and movement, and all these paintings really just exude this extreme, emotional energy for me.
Yeah.
So over the past 10 plus years, I've really tried to mimic that in my work and really analyze all these different aspects of these paintings and bring them to life.
It's sometimes hard for me to believe that it's an actual real arrangement when you've made something. When I first felt inspired to make a flower arrangement, it was really just because of you. Up until that point, I would buy a bunch of roses, cut the stems, take off the leaves, put them in a vase. I have a question that I have been wanting to ask you for a long time. Where did you learn how to do this?
I really taught myself, and it was really trial and error and experimentation and play, and to really take cues from other art forms and other artists. You're working with color and you're working with composition and space and depth. These are all things that you do with flowers that you also do with other art forms.
Absolutely, and it really feels like you're painting with flowers. So we're gonna have Mikey instruct us using his technique of how he would create an arrangement. The very first thing you need are flowers. And for the flowers, we had an adventure this morning. We headed out to the flower district on 28th Street here in New York City, and I had a great time.
It's one of the most magical places. Can get a little crazy, but it's magical.
My issue is that I'm often overwhelmed when I walk into a place like this, and I start seeing everything, and my big first question to you is, where do you even start? Where do you start when you're putting together an arrangement?
Yeah, well, first I like to run around, at least see what's there, and then I try to go for one product that really inspires me. And that inspiration could be shape, it could be size, but in this case, what I'm going to show you is color. I like to find something that has a multitude of color in it, and that will inspire me and inspire an entire palette around that one flower.
You pick a starting point.
I pick a starting point.
In one flower.
Yeah.
And so you found it?
Yes. So this ranunculus right here, I think is magic. It's a ranunculus from Japan. They only produce them this time of year. They're all greenhouse grown in Japan.
Okay.
But I love this specific ranunculus because of all the color in it. There's pink, there's a little bit of dark aubergine in the center, there's peach, there's coral, there's a little bit of yellow, blush. There's so much color in this. We can start pulling flowers that have this color in it.
I see.
And you'll see how that'll start building an entire palette.
So you would actually take this in your hand,
Yes.
start walking around with it?
Yes.
Okay, let's do it.
I'll actually hold it up to a certain product to see how it sort of looks all together. Even just looking at this right now, I'm loving the sweet pea back here.
piece right
This
here.
beautiful mauve, or the one right behind it.
Oh, this?
Yes.
Now this I think is a great point to illustrate to a novice.
Yeah.
When
This can work.
Okay.
This can, actually, they both work.
Well,
so.
well, my thing that I want to point out to
Yeah.
people is when you look at this, you said there's so much color in here, and you
Yes.
meant there's a variety of color.
Yeah.
Where to a novice, someone would look at this and say, oh, that's just one color. That's
Yeah.
just an orange flower.
Yeah.
And I think this is a great point, is that my assumption was, oh, he told me to get these ones,
Yeah.
but you meant this.
So I'm looking at the inside of this petal.
Okay.
There is, at the base of this, a little bit of this dusty mauvey purple. And
Really?
I'm trying to
Oh, I wanna
pull
see
this
that.
color out. The center of these is like a dark aubergine.
Yep.
This is like a very pale, dusty version of that. But
Mm-hmm.
you'll see as we start building, we're gonna have these two colors sort of blend together, but I am pulling a color that's found in this flower.
Okay, so this is so fascinating to me. I've been copying you now for 2 years, and I wouldn't have even thought, like I wouldn't have even looked at these.
To pull that, yeah.
So okay, so we're gonna put these back, and now where do we go?
Okay, and now we're gonna just try to find other color. We're just building off of the palette of these two hues.
Okay.
You'll start to see how these colors will start blending together as we build on them.
These also smell incredible.
I know, the
Sweet-
sweet
I
pea,
think sweet
they're
peas
insane.
are my favorite.
Yeah.
I always say this is my favorite flower when I'm holding them.
Me too.
Okay, so now,
Cool.
now where are we going?
Yes, and I have my eyes on something in particular over there
Lead the way.
that I think will be wonderful. So these hellebores over here, I think are perfect for this palette, actually. So we're really working off of both of these colors. And you can see in each of these hellebores, there's actually a warmth around the edge and on the back side of the petals, which pulls in the warmth of this ranunculus. But there's also this really deep and green sort of mauve-y color that is the base color of this hellebore.
Okay.
So this is really gonna help us start transitioning from color to color.
When you're looking at a flower, you're not just looking at it in the conventional way of the bloom facing you. You're looking at, like
Yeah.
you pointed out, the backs of these petals,
Yeah.
which I wouldn't have thought about.
Yeah, because when we're arranging, we want it to dance, we want it to move. And if everything is facing one direction, then you just have this like sort of 2D, look. We want it to feel dimensional. We really want to create that. So you'll see when we start arranging how we're thinking about all sides of the flower. Okay, another flower that I found that I think works really well for this arrangement is this beautiful daffodil.
Oh, daffodils.
I know. I love this specifically because it has a really nice peach center. So this is gonna play off of our ranunculus.
Okay.
Okay, so I feel like we should set this up, lay it out for our transition,
Yeah.
and then we'll start thinking about what we want to pull in.
Okay.
So now we're gonna lay these out on the shelf up here.
Okay.
So we're gonna start with our lightest,
Yep.
this sort of light dusty mauve. We're gonna start placing our flowers in the exact way that they're going to transition. Okay? From light to dark, color to color. Okay?
Okay.
Now we're gonna go through and we're gonna start finding some filler flowers that really work with either of these.
So like these are our anchors.
These are anchors, yeah.
This and this.
Yes.
And these
now
are our in-between.
Everything else is gonna blend these colors out.
I see. So I've never done this before,
Yeah.
and I had no idea that this is what you do. But
Yeah.
you're using this shelf
Yes.
to kind of look at it and step back and
Yes.
see overall, like the bones of what this arrangement's gonna be.
Yep. You're basically setting it up so you know what you're getting and you know how everything works together.
Oh my
But this is
gosh.
common. In almost all
I had no
wholesalers,
idea.
you can find a shelf or a cart and you can lay your stuff down. Nobody's gonna tell you no.
To
And
be
a lot
able-
of them are set up for you.
Wow. Okay, so we leave these here.
Yep, and now we're gonna start thinking about what we wanna pull. So we need some peach here.
Yep.
And we're gonna pull some more of this dusty mauve, maybe a little bit darker. I like that contrast, so I'll show you
Okay.
when we go out there.
Okay. Okay, I'm gonna make a guess.
Yeah.
If I was looking at this wall, I would think from your note,
Uh-huh.
one of these very dark ranunculus.
Yes,
Like
yes.
they're purple.
Yeah.
The center of the other ranunculus was that really dark, deep purple.
Yeah.
And our other flowers had purples in them, so is that
You're spot on. And there is almost a brown undertone to these that gives it that antique look, and you can find that in the hellebores and in the ranunculus. So I think it's
Okay.
perfect.
Okay.
I think it's a really, really great like base layer for what we already chose. So now the next thing that we're gonna bring in is another filler, like another base.
Okay.
And I actually love these other variety of ranunculus peach. This is gonna play as a base layer to our larger ranunculus that we have over there. And do you see how these work together so well? There is this color in the center of many of these ranunculus.
Wow. What does a base layer mean?
A base layer is something that's gonna sit under your specialty flowers. I like to explain it as a canvas. You're creating a canvas to decorate. So all your specialty flowers will go sort of on top of that. Now these can work as specialty flowers too, but in this case, I'm gonna use these as a more under base layer.
These are like the ensemble of the cast.
Yes.
Not the stars of the show.
Yes, not the stars of the show.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, what's next?
I spotted something really special outside.
Okay.
That I think is gonna be perfect for this. We're gonna need some type of branch.
Okay.
Some type of structure that's gonna set the parameters of our shape. And you always wanna think about that when you're shopping. And in this case, there's this really beautiful plum. And I think there's so much color that we pulled with our other flowers in this plum blossom here.
Oh wow, and even like this color
Both
too.
colors in it. There's a dark in the under petal, and then there's a little bit of peach in this brighter like outer petal. So pretty. This is red bud. And I want to use this because of the shape. The color works, it's perfect, but I love the shape of these branches.
So I would assume, hey, we already have branches. Why do we need more branches? But you're looking at the shape of these,
Yes.
which are different than our plum.
Yes, so the plum is a little straighter.
Yes.
That's gonna give us a little more height.
Yep.
But this is gonna make our flowers look like they're dancing.
Which is another element to this that we
Yeah.
haven't talked about.
Yeah.
We were talking
shape.
about color.
We want gesture, we want shape. I always say it, but you always want your flowers to, one, look like a bird could fly through it.
Yeah.
Two, look like it's dancing. That's for movement.
Okay.
Oh, pansies, for sure.
Oh yeah.
And then I think just that little pop of blue, and then I think we're good. I think that these might work really nicely, actually.
Stunning.
It's pretty.
Yeah.
So I think we're good.
Okay.
They're so pretty. Maybe we should just do it, just to have it.
Just in case.
Yeah, I think just have it. And then we're done. This is the last. So, yeah. Oh, this persica is so pretty right now.
These, Mikey?
Yeah.
Or these ones?
Those ones.
Are we gonna put
so
those in?
beautiful. I think I want to.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's crazy to me that this, which already looks like a beautiful still life, was what we found this morning.
I know.
This is what's kind of amazing is I'm still trying to cultivate this ability. You completely have it. You're seeing beyond the buckets, you're seeing beyond the paper, you're seeing beyond the chaos, and you're envisioning like the finished thing.
Yeah.
And it was hard for me this morning. It was hard not to be distracted.
Yeah.
But seeing...
I mean, there's so much going on.
Yeah.
There's so much color that it is really easy, to get distracted.
But I think your technique, like your technique of finding the kind of the star flower and then working from that,
Yes.
and then using the shelf to see everything in context, really helps, because now, like looking at what we bought together, it's just like, I'm so excited to start. So we have our flowers, we need a vessel of some sort, and shameless plug, Mikey agreed to allow me to bring my own, which I made at Guy Wolff's place. So these are actually flower pots. Like Guy and I made these just a couple months ago. They have a hole in the bottom so you can plant things in them.
They're amazing.
Thank you, Mikey.
They're so beautiful. Like they have this beautiful, delicate feel to them.
So I'm so excited to make our arrangement in this, and Mikey shared with us that just because this has a hole in it, it doesn't mean that we can't make an arrangement in it. What we do is...
Yeah, you just find some type of vessel that can hold water, that can fit inside of your pot. Just something that can hold water that'll fit in.
And you were very conscious of putting something in there that kind of disappears.
Yes, we don't want to see it.
We don't want to see the rim at all.
No.
Okay.
So you're gonna pop that in, and then the next thing that we're gonna be using is chicken wire.
You can get this at hardware stores. It's a little trickier to find than the normal chicken wire, but if you look up coated chicken wire, it'll bring up stuff that's covered in either black or green.
Yeah. What you're gonna do is cut a piece of your chicken wire, and you're gonna cut it to about 2 to 3 times the size of the opening of your vessel. But you don't want to go much bigger than that, or you're going to be cramming tons of chicken wire into your vase, and then you're going to be fighting with your stems to like find space. And I like to use, if it's a round opening, I like to use just a square of chicken wire. And we already have these pre-cut for our sizes. What we're going to do is connect our end points, okay? And then we're going to connect these sizes as well.
Opposite. So we're doing like opposite corners.
Yeah, we're just making like a cushion,
Okay.
basically. And then after that, we're literally just gonna create a messy, crushed ball of chicken wire. That's just gonna help you make a round shape that'll pop in easier. Now, the most important thing to note is that you have multiple layers for your stems to go through. An example. If your flower stem sits just through one layer and the bottom is resting like flush on the bottom, your stem's gonna flop everywhere. But the more layers you have, the easier it is that it's gonna stay put exactly how you place your stem. And then we're just gonna pop our chicken wire right into the top.
So this can just sit like this on the top?
Yep.
Oh.
And it's nice to go up maybe an inch or so above. That's gonna allow us to have stems going horizontally.
Oh.
That's gonna help us to have that cascade over the rim of your vessel. That's gonna give you that crazy movement of stuff spilling out.
Okay.
So you don't want it to be fully flush.
Okay. Wow, I had no idea.
Okay. And then we're just gonna take some of this green floral tape, and I'm gonna do a shallow X directly across, because most arrangements you're gonna want either one-sided or two-sided. Yes, it'll be 360, but you don't wanna be like trying to fight to cover up tape on your two main sides.
I don't understand what the shallow X is. Shallow X
So
means...
shallow X is like this, right?
Yet another thing that I didn't know. I knew about the X, but I always put the X like middle and middle.
I mean, it's not the most important thing, but I find that it's easier because then you're not fighting against it to cover up your tape. And then we can just add a little piece to seal off the ends, just like this, right? Once that's done, we'll fill these with water. And obviously we can only fill up as much as our little insert will allow. So our first step in arranging is going to be some type of structure or foliage or branch. In this case, it's gonna be flowering branches. That is gonna set our shape.
Okay.
And for this one, we're gonna be using a mix of this red bud and some of this plum.
Mikey prepped all of these flowers as we were setting up. All of the packages were opened. He recut the stems of every single thing we bought and put the stems in clean water, stripping off the leaves so that no leaves are under the water. That's really important, right?
No leaves under the water, and every time you put a stem or take a stem out of water and put it back in, you always have to give it a fresh cut.
Okay.
So the stems will oxidize and seal off, and then your flowers will die faster if you don't have a fresh cut. So even in just that little bit of time that I had that out, I'm just gonna do another fresh cut. And we're gonna start building our shape out.
Okay.
And don't be afraid to really get wild with your branches, okay? And when I'm thinking of proportion and length compared to vessel size, if this is the height, I wouldn't want to go more than 2 to 3 times bigger than this height, because then it's gonna look awkward, then your proportion's off and this is gonna look tiny, tiny, tiny. But you also don't wanna go too small.
2 to 3 times this height is pretty big.
Pretty big,
I mean, I think it's a lot bigger than most of us who might be starting out would even assume. Like I think a lot of people that have never done this before are so used to making an arrangement that's this high. But the reason why I'm so excited about sharing you with everyone watching is that you really show how to make an arrangement that is not what you would assume.
Yeah, you can get
like really
you can get crazy. I think it's about letting your product really speak for itself, letting it get wild like it would in nature. And some of these branches that have more florals, like the plum, you can really go in nice and horizontally. You want to think horizontally and you want to think vertically when you're putting your flowers in, because we're really trying to create depth. We're not like trying to fill anything out, we're just setting exactly how we want our composition to look.
what advice would you give to someone who doesn't know anything about composition? Like, who might not know what that word even means?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, especially with composition, is really focus on negative space. Instead of filling it in, making it look as if a bird could fly through your arrangement, having these open moments that allow your arrangement to breathe. That's something that you really want to think about.
I'm intimidated.
You're intimidated?
Yes.
No.
It's because I've always done this by myself, thinking, what would Mikey do? And now to be standing beside Mikey and to see what Mikey's doing.
Well, now you know what I'll do.
Well, yeah, now, but then I have to do it beside you.
The thing is this, with flowers, there is no right or wrong. Everybody just has a style.
Yeah.
So I'm teaching you my style.
Yes.
But any style that you would do is right because it's what you create, it's art. So we're really trying to rest stuff on the rim
Yeah, okay.
here. Even this piece too on your right side could be really nice. See that cascade? Really have it spill out.
Wow.
And now our next step is going to be adding our filler elements. I like to categorize all my flowers into 5 different elements. And the first element is going to be a branch or foliage or something to set my shape. The second element is a filler. That's gonna be a base layer. And for that, we have some of these more standard ranunculus. That is what's gonna be under everything that's gonna create a canvas that you're gonna pop specialty flowers off of. The third element is your face flowers. So we have these roses here, we have poppies. You could even consider this fritillaria a face flower, just such a big, bold star flower. The next element after that is gesture. Gestural elements are what give it life, give it movement, make it dance. And then we have texture. And texture makes your arrangement more interesting. And in that case, we're gonna be using fruit. And I'll show you how we're gonna use fruit as our texture in this old still life that we're gonna be making. And you'll notice there's a lot of fruit in old still lifes, right?
Yes.
It's about decadence, but also decay. It's about life and death. So we're gonna bring in some of these grapes, some of these figs, we have some other fruit too that we'll style with at the end of our arrangement.
Amazing.
So I'm gonna look at my flowers and I'm gonna think, what flowers do I have that have really good height? And what flowers do I have that will cascade easier? So looking at this, I really love this fritillaria and I love the height that it has. So I think that I will really enhance the tall side of my arrangement with my dark stems. And then with all of my more peach colored stems, I might sit that a little bit lower central and off to the lower side. So we're basically creating a purple side and a peach side and then blending it through.
Okay, I'll just copy you.
Yeah, just follow me as I go.
Just copy Mikey.
That's perfect.
So you take off all the leaves.
Yes.
Like I'm noticing you're constantly editing even this, right?
Always, and you don't want anything that has a little node or a little piece sticking out, because if you want to remove it, it could get stuck and rip your entire structure out. So you want to make sure that it's always a clean stem.
So like,
perfect example.
What would I do?
I would cut this here, and I would just take this and just nip that little side off.
Okay.
So I'm just kind of adjusting my height here, and I'm working in 3s. I'm gonna put
3s because
odd numbers look more natural. It's fighting against perfect symmetry.
Okay.
So working in 3s, working in 5s, that's gonna give you a more organic look to your arrangement. And then after our peaches in here, we are going to grab some of our dark ranunculus.
and the darks are going on the taller side.
And remember, this is just a base. This is just blocking out our color and still working with our shape.
So you stick in like 2 like this?
Yeah, you totally can, yeah. I actually love when the buds double up. Anything that is like an interesting, natural habit that a flower has, I would say embrace that.
Okay.
Like this branch, the curvature, right? We're gonna keep that. We don't wanna hide that natural element that has. So anything like that, like a double-headed flower, I think is perfect. Like embrace it, use it. Now, our next step is my favorite step, and we're gonna add the fruit into our arrangement.
Oh, now?
Yeah.
Really?
So we're gonna add the fruit in now because fruit is so heavy and cumbersome.
Yes.
We don't wanna fight against our flowers.
Okay.
We're gonna put it in first, and then we're gonna lay our flowers over it so it looks like it's more integrated into our arrangement. We're gonna be using these dark grapes.
I am so curious to see how we get those grapes into this vase.
Yes. We're thinking about how these grapes are gonna move and cascade. And we're gonna create sort of a little armature that this is gonna hang off of. And we're gonna use these simple wooden stakes. You can use like, what is this, like a shish kebab stick?
Yeah.
Like there's so many different, you can use anything that is like a hard material that you can cut and adjust and attach product to. So we're just gonna take a little bit of our tape. And we're just gonna tape the stem to the end here. And it's kind of nice that these grape stems are pretty malleable, okay?
What?
And now we're just gonna cut it to whatever length we want. I'm gonna cut this little back because it's pretty long.
You taught yourself this?
Yeah. A lot of trial and error. It didn't come right away. Okay, and now we're just gonna create these mounds of grapes stacked on top of each other in these areas, front and back.
It works.
Yeah, see?
What?
That's perfect. And then we're gonna layer more up as we go. So we're gonna create like maybe 3 grape clusters per side. See how it's coming now from the inside of our arrangement, and it's cascading over the edge here. We're gonna do that on both sides.
It's so Dionysus.
Also, you're not limited to just one type of fruit. If you're using something, say like a fig,
Yeah.
you can cut your fruit to expose the inside, like this beautiful inside,
Yeah.
which is a whole multitude of new color that we can bring in, still pulls in. And what you would do is you would stake it from the back and you would pop that in to your mound of fruit. Okay, obviously figs don't last that long, so you would do this only for maybe like photo or something, or just for like a quick little like dinner party.
Oh, wow.
But we can stake in fruit to really see the inside texture, the inside color of it. And you can do this with any type of fruit that you like the color of the inside.
My mind is blown.
The options are endless.
You know, the shape of this vase, it's called a neoclassical vase. Because,
perfect for
because
this.
the origin of it came from classical vases from ancient Greece. It was a crater, like for mixing wine.
Oh,
and then
really?
neoclassical means like 1700s when they made it new again. And that's where the shape comes from. So if we go back to ancient Greece, and for mixing wine, like it just makes so much sense. Grapes cascading from the crater.
Just layer in a little bit more of this fruit. I really love the color of these figs. And because this was really just to create a photo for a still life, I think it's okay to use these. These are, you know, you don't need a lot of longevity out of this.
The purple of the grapes with the branches and the ranunculus.
They all work together. They all play into each other. We can even use some of these grapes as well to fill in where our chicken wire is. One thing that we don't want to do is fight to cover our mechanics later on. We want to do that earlier on because it's too hard to fight through delicate flowers.
Really?
We can even add some smaller pieces, right? Just rest them in because we're going to put flowers around them, so that's going to really secure that in.
Oh, so just sort of propping them up?
And that's going to help us cover our structure. We're going to use the sweet pea as our next layer. And I love that it has this dark, dusty mauve undertone, but there's still a little green in it too. So it's kind of pulling all of this together. Okay, so we're gonna work with our shape and we're gonna really enhance the high point of our arrangement here with our sweet pea.
Like echoing the direction of the branch.
We're just following the shape that we've already made. Also, don't be afraid to thin it out because I like how sometimes they have these delicate tendrils.
Yes.
Because we don't want to lose our negative space. We want to maintain that. That's going to help give you more gesture and more movement. But we're keeping these just to one side, just our high side where our dark, like aubergines and like blacks are coming in.
Okay.
So what I would do, that seems a little heavy with all of it clustered there. I would actually put another one, like cut it a little shorter and have it come out horizontally, even a little more horizontal here and on the other side.
Okay.
To enhance, you're just following the shape of our branch.
Okay.
But just on one side, just on the tall side of our arrangement. Okay, so our next step is gonna be our face flowers.
Face flowers, these are like the stars.
Big stars, yeah.
Okay.
So we're gonna use, this is Fritillaria persica. It's one of my favorite flowers of all time. I love it because it's just these tons of little bells. I like there's a little yellow inside of them, but I just love the movement. To me, they're so romantic.
Mikey saw these at the very end of shopping today.
Those are always the best ones.
What's very interesting is that had you not seen these, the arrangement would have been something else.
I know.
Like it's
I
the
think
magic.
the universe always sends me a last minute addition. Every time.
The star showed up. Wow.
I'm really working with, again, with my shape. And I'm gonna kind of put them into my branches here.
It seems like they listen to you.
The flowers. Remember, as you add more product, things are gonna hold better. So it's just about adding more stems and then you're gonna get more structure.
That already looks incredible.
It's fun, right? But you see now we're having heavy flowers at the top. That's giving it that really old world, like painterly feel. It's like adding to the energy of the arrangement. This is a really nice shape here. You could probably anchor it into your branches here.
I see it.
That's great. It's wonderful.
Can I leave it that high?
Yeah, totally. Because you have a width that makes sense with this.
This is my idea of a good time. No, truly. When I'm doing something like this, I just feel like,
It's a sense of freedom, right?
and
You
it
can do
feels
whatever
so
you want.
lucky. Like,
Same. So I know I had mentioned working in threes, but I actually think two is perfect for this because they are big and they're
Yep.
completely different like shapes and sizes.
Yep.
So whatever feels natural in terms of composition. This is beautiful. It looks really amazing. Now we're gonna add our hellebores into our arrangement. And we're gonna use those more central in our arrangement. Our negative space, we're gonna sort of highlight it in this area. And I love that these have such a defined center. It really becomes almost like a face flower, like a filler and face flower. But I love that it has such a defined center.
why did you pick this, Mikey, for this space? Like my assumption would have been, this is too small to put in this negative space.
I mean, I like how delicate it is. You don't want to have something too heavy in here, so you want that delicate nature being framed by this negative space.
I'm just gonna watch where
Okay.
you're putting it.
So we're gonna keep them centrally located because it is a great blending flower. So do you see it kind of creates a step up into our darker,
From here,
from here up
Into this.
There's green in the stem,
Yes.
which is in this. There's also purple, there's mauve. There's so many different colors in
but
here.
there's slightly orange here.
There's a little bit of orange, so it's helping blend this together.
A good transition.
Yes. And then after that, we're gonna add our main inspiration for this entire arrangement, this beautiful Japanese ranunculus.
This is what we started with, right?
This is what we started
the
with.
very first
This
flower we
is
found.
The most stunning flower. But this is now gonna pull in all these purple and dark tones and hues that we're bringing into this. It's gonna pull it all together. We're gonna have them come out. We're gonna have them spill out. We really wanna see these flowers in here. And we're gonna use 3 of these, but play off of where our peach is, right? And if it is a little floppy, you can also put a stake in and then just sort of rest it on that so that it doesn't fall over and it kind of angles exactly how you want it.
Like
you can even tape it.
the stake?
Yeah, if you want.
Really?
Yeah.
I have wondered about that. Like sometimes the heads of your, like of the blooms are just in the perfect place, but they look like they're
It's
very...
all about manipulation. Sometimes it's a little smoke and mirrors. And we're keeping them on our peach warm side of our arrangement, okay? So our next step
Yes.
is to bring in our tulips, and I'll show you how we're gonna have these tulips talk to this fertile area. These are coming this way. We're gonna highlight our shape here with our tulips on the right side. And I love the leaves. We're gonna get some movement out of them as well, by sort of folding them down.
Oh, just
And
manually.
really embracing them, yeah. And the malleability of tulips is great because you can really slowly bend them if the stems are not too cold.
With your hand? Like actually just take it and shape it?
Well, very slowly so it doesn't break. But if you just slowly, like, warm it up with your hand, it won't stay like this, but for a photo, you'll get you'll get a good couple hours out of it, okay? Just to get it to which shape that you want. This is something that I love about tulips.
Wow.
Like we can have them cascade over the edge with our greens. These create so much movement in our arrangements.
And tulips are so Dutch. Like
So
in
Dutch.
those Dutch still life paintings from the 1600s.
I think some of the most common flowers in old still life paintings are obviously tulips, roses, and fritillaria. And I think one reason why tulips were used, because these still lifes were made to basically show people, families were hiring painters to show their bounty, to show their wealth. So tulips at one point were even a form of currency. And I think having interesting wild varieties showed your wealth, showed the abundance that you had. So people love to incorporate them into their paintings.
One of the things that Mikey and I were talking about earlier that people might not know is that those old still life paintings of flowers were not painted at one time. They didn't have all those flowers that they cut and put in a vase and painted. These paintings were often composed over the course of a year or longer. And when a certain flower was in bloom, it would be cut and painted in the painting. So the painting was built sequentially as the flowers came into bloom over the course of months or years.
It was the painter's composition.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that was
So
fascinating to learn, that this wasn't something that was in a vase and just painted in the course of a couple weeks or a few days. And you often see some of these flowers at the very end of their bloom period, where they're
At their peak.
they're almost
full peak.
yeah they're almost about to drop. That is kind of what we're doing here, because we have the luxury of being able to purchase flowers that are grown out of season in any color that we want. We're just thoroughly spoiled.
Yeah, they even had dahlias at the
Oh,
market.
yes.
Which is crazy. So we're really enhancing, like I showed you earlier, really using these green leaves.
Oh,
of
you're
the
actually
tulips.
like shaping them in
Yeah,
there.
you can fold them in and out, like have that movement come in. Another little trick that you can do with tulips is you can slowly, when they're not too cold, you can slowly invert the petals to create a bigger flower, which this happens naturally as the flower gets older, but you can create a bigger, more wild flower.
Wow.
And a lot of tulips have really, really interesting color on the insides of their petals. So it's definitely something you can do. This won't last forever. It'll just go back to its normal shape, but if you're doing this for a photo or for one event, this is a really fun tip.
And that's so different too.
Yeah, it's like a completely different
Yeah.
flower, right?
Okay, I'm gonna try to make it really dramatic.
Yes.
Like I want droopy, droopy.
Really intense cascade.
High drama.
High drama.
It's like finding the real estate now.
I know.
It's getting trickier and trickier.
It's beautiful. It's so fun. Yeah, that's so fun. Next step,
Next step.
we're gonna start putting something in here that's gonna be framed
Okay.
in the space that we've created, and we're gonna use daffodils for that. And one thing that I love to do with daffodils, because they're so directional, is have them speak to each other.
Like-
Yeah, and talking to each other.
Oh, hello. Like, whereas if you just put them in a vase like this, you know, there's such a difference between this and
And that. So you can see I have those filled out here.
yes.
Now we're gonna keep embracing our shape with adding this gestural element, this beautiful fritillaria. And this we're gonna use on our high side here, but just as we did with the tulips, but on the left side of our arrangement. Really just having those leaves kind of cascade over what we already have in here.
Wow,
And
look
that's
at this.
just
It's
creating
like,
layers and movement. Manipulating those leaves.
Mikey, you're so good. Okay.
So pretty. So now I want to add pansies. And I want to highlight these pansies in the center of our arrangement. So basically, with our negative space, we've created a frame, almost like a picture frame.
So all of this created this negative space in here.
We created a frame for this beautiful, delicate pansy. It could be any delicate specialty flower, but we really used this negative space to create this picture frame, this frame for this whatever delicate element we want to put inside.
But it's also done in a way where it just looks like it was growing that way. Like it
Yeah, everything is like,
doesn't look like
very
it was
natural.
composed
yeah.
with so much thought and intention. It looks like it just kind of happened.
Yeah.
And that's
the
part of
goal.
this process.
That's the goal. So our next element, I'm gonna add in these specialty ranunculus. And I love how these have this really rich gold, but also red. It's really nice to work in primary colors if you want it to have that painterly feel. There's always some form of a primary color palette. So having this little bit of red in here is really nice. You'll notice we're not using any like just direct greenery either.
Right.
We're really just using flowers and the greenery in these flowers. So after that, the last thing we're gonna do, and you'll see how this really makes it look painterly, is just a little touch of blue. Not a lot.
Like another
Just
primary
it's our
color.
last little primary color that we're gonna put in. Just a little touch of a delicate blue flower.
Okay.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I love the height of that.
I never would have thought of buying these blue flowers.
It just adds a really wonderful,
Totally.
just little accent, you know? Like how you just
Wow.
a touch, and maybe one more right here in the center, down here.
Yep.
I love it.
Oh my gosh.
Cool.
Wait, I need to step really far back to see them.
And see it?
Wow.
So pretty, right?
Yeah. They look unreal. I mean, it just feels like
singing.
this was not composed. Like
Yeah,
it feels like
that's the goal, right?
this was just growing out of this vase, and it feels like a painting.
So fun.
Mikey, thank you so much for showing us today
Yeah.
your process.
My pleasure.
All these very important things that I actually deal with in classes for painting and drawing, composition, line, color theory. So to be able to stand with you today and do the same thing with flowers is a real honor. And I'm sure that
Amazing.
everybody out there who watches this will be inspired in some way, maybe to go to the grocery store or a flower market
Or your backyard.
or your backyard
Yeah.
and really think outside convention.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mikey.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you.
You can learn a lot of things from the flowers, and especially in the month of June. There's a wealth of... Okay, I'm gonna stop.
That was great.
The rose was really mean to her.